I've never had rocks thrown at me, so it sounds like it's a good thing. Even though they were close to you and I can hear them wood knock, I don't repeat it. I just go ahead and just stay calm, more of an ignoring them. And by ignoring them, I think Ron brought that along, is they become more curious, and then they become, then they find you more approachable. And so they will come a little bit closer to you. This also goes with call blasting. You don't know what you're telling them. You don't know what's going on with them. You don't know what you're saying to them. And a lot of times, it seems like it's a negative consequence. To me, rock throwing and screaming is a negative type of response. And we go back into submissive behavior. And what submissive behavior is not only how you act, but also where you're at geographically. You're not going to stand on tops of hills and try to look around, because that's where you want them to be. You want to be at the bottom to give them the opportunity. You want to give them every opportunity to feel like you're not a threat. So every little time that you do these little gestures of standing on top of a hill or wood knocking or something of that gesture, I would think it would be a threat. And so by not doing these types of behaviors and being submissive to them, giving them control of the situation, that's going to make them more curious about you, and they're going to be less apprehensive also by you showing submissive behavior. Do I have any questions on that part? I know that's a lot of little things. Yes?
Masking your food, how do you do it?
Right now it's a trade secret. I'm starting to work on it a little bit. I got a bunch of little ones like that, and I had another one yesterday. But yeah, and the thing with that too is that, like with the casting material and stuff, I'm experimenting with some of this stuff. And the last thing I want to do is tell somebody how to do something that I'm not really entirely sure that I'm right about. So then this one person, this one researcher finally finds their first track. They try this technique that they heard from Jaime Avalos, and it just totally goes bad on them. So whose fault is it now? You know, it's basically my fault because I told them this is the way you do it. And so I still need to do experimentation before I ever bring anything out like that. So when I ever bring out information like that on how to do something like that, I want to make sure it's right. I'm not going to give you folks bad scoop, you know, just because I want to tell you something. Any other questions offhand, or no? Okay. Okay, these are two great pieces here. Cut that off. This is part of the approach. I actually went to two different areas. One was on the western side of the United States, and one was on the eastern side of the United States. The one at the below is the western side, and this is the recent one here at the bottom. Notice the similarities of what I'm finding. I'm applying the same mapping techniques. I'm applying the same approach. And this is a place where I did both treat sites in these areas. And these are the things that I find. The top one is in the eastern United States. It's the middle of December. There's a snake in the snow in the middle of December. Notice this is a gardener snake. The snake's head looks like a viper, how it's flat. And the reason is because its head is smashed. It's been disabled. It's still alive, but it's been disabled. And this is not far from my treat site. Also notice that there is the branch twist there. You can see it right there, and you can see it below on this bottom one. I brought that one back with me. It's about 1 inch thick, somewhere around there, and they twisted it. No, all energy was applied to the middle of that twist. It was not applied beyond the twist or before the twist. So that means it literally grabbed it in the middle and squeezed it. I don't know of anybody that could do that. That takes a lot of energy. There's a lot of energy involved to be able to do something like this. So what I'm finding is, by using the same approach, I'm finding the same types of things. I'm finding this snake's head smashed. This one below, the snake's head is missing. And it's fresh. I'm talking it's so fresh that I went to go squeeze it, and it was still a little bit jumpy still. It also had, at the bottom near the cloaca, it had the internal organs were getting pushed out. The closest. So that tells me that whatever it was not only ripped its head off, but it squeezed it. So, and the way it looks, it's like something took its thumb, a very large thumb, stuck it underneath the neck here and just pulled the head right off. And I showed Dr. Meldrum this, and he finds it reasonable by what I'm talking about and what I'm seeing. And I base what I'm seeing here based on the trauma experience I have in the operating room. And so that's kind of, it looks like a blunt trauma, and it has the hallmarks of blunt trauma as opposed to being cut. So I'm finding similarities, even though I'm 2,000 miles apart, just by applying the same techniques and mapping and going into the same areas, I seem to be finding the same sorts of things. It's okay. No, actually it's still in my cooler. It might be a snack on the way home. Anyways, let me start this one over again. This is really, really interesting. A while ago, last August, I believe, yeah, I went to go meet Autumn Williams for the first time, and we just had a great time. And the first thing she was looking at my tracks, is really intrigued with my tracks and how the trackways were. And she was showing me this paddy goose walk, I guess as she called it, and she's trying to teach me how to do this. There's no way I can do this. But the whole point behind it is that when you duplicate this walk, the feet come down, heels on, and you can actually line it up like I showed you that first picture where it looked like it was walking on a tightrope. And so you can literally take a line and draw it through the heels, and they all match up. Let me go on here, and I'll show it to you here. So that's what this is here. Notice the trackways on top. Notice that. Significant. This is the east. That's the west. Right there. West side and east side. They're both, that's east, that's west. Notice the similarities of them. It is the same individual. Cast comparisons have shown this. This is the trackway from the east, and this is one that's not far from it, the same way. Notice the how it walks like it's walking on a tightrope. Now look at this. I was showing Mr. Gimlin this trackway, and he was telling me that what he saw on the paddy film, or when he saw the paddy tracks, he says those look just like the ones in the paddy film, or in the paddy tracks. So I see I'm getting a little bit, I got to cut this a little short. So, okay, now when we talk about, people think that it's people running around, or runners out in the wilderness. Well, the first thing I got to say is every trackway I picked up, they've never been running. It's always walking, every single one. So it kind of helps me exclude that part. Right here in the middle here, you have a Sherpa's foot, somebody that walks around all the time in the similar conditions of the Eastern Sierras, or the Sierras. And even though this is probably way on one side of being really a bad foot, it's probably within that area. But if you look at the casts themselves, they're all clean. And every one, even though I can pick dermal ridges up on these casts, I can't get any cracks or anything like that that's showing me any type of process that's happening there of degradation. And it's all the same cast. This one in the bottom here shows that where it stepped on a burr. Stepped on a burr so hard that it pushed it into the ground that I could not pull it out. I had to cast it into place. The other one shows that it's on the other side of the Sierras, on the eastern side, around November, and it's walking around in the snow. And the most strangest part is that it's the same individual. This is the same person. And we've gone through this over and over again with Dr. Meldrum, and to try to bring the same group of people in the same areas consistently for the past 3 years makes you wonder. And the other thing is I've never, as much as I've been in the Sierras, I've never seen anybody up in high country barefoot, nor have I ever seen anybody walking around barefoot. You would think as many tracks as I've gotten, I would have found somebody barefoot somewhere along the line. But after 3 years, it still has not happened. These are some other areas that, some other odd things that I've found besides tracks. These two on the top are an area where there's this teepee structure. This teepee structure is in the middle of burrs. again. There's barefoot tracks heading up to this area. These barefoot tracks appear to match all my other tracks of this same particular individual, but it's walking in burrs. It's actually walking in burrs. And you can see the markers there also. There's this tree loop here, which is very, very odd. Not really sure what it is. It doesn't look like a snow load. Trying to figure out how it could flip backwards that way it's been really, really difficult. It's the one in the center. You're just seeing the background right now, but not far from it in the 8 o'clock position is an X marker, which is only like 200 feet away from that loop. The one at the very bottom there, you can see me where it looks like something grabbed it like that as I'm showing there and just kind of pulled it and bent it. And that's up at about 12 feet at that point. So these are some of the areas. Again, I mapped it out using the same principles. And this is some of the things that I'm finding in these areas. Makes me more approachable. And by being more approachable is going to help me get on to the next level of trying to get some sort of communication. But before that can ever happen, you have to be approachable. They have to trust you. And that's what this really comes down to. And that's why guns will give you a demeanor, even though you don't even realize it, that you put out in nature. It's just like I had a little lady that went flying past me. Well, I didn't know it was a little lady. I just had a car in LA, and you're pulling up thinking, man, I got to take a look at this jerk that just cut me off. And you look over, and it's this sweet little old lady. And you're thinking, how can a sweet little old lady do something like that? Well, getting in a car can change people's demeanor. Just like picking up a gun can change people's demeanor. You don't feel like that, you don't think like that, but it happens. And you don't really realize it because it's very insidious. You don't see this process that's happening. And so you get this different type of mentality when you're in the wilderness and you don't fit in. You become alien to what's going on there. I know I got to go here real quick. I thank everybody for taking the time out to come and seeing everybody here at the Oregon Sasquatch Symposium. I really enjoyed my time here. I enjoyed those folks that have been watching my YouTube sites. Please check out my sierrasasquatch.com site. And I also have a YouTube site called, it's the number 4 and then Jaime Avalos. I have some cards up there you guys can pick up for little references if you want to go look at my YouTubes. And I'm continuing to build them up. And I provide more information as things comes along. And I want to build that sierrasasquatch.com site, so I'll have things that I'll be able to, you'll be able to purchase. I'm also in the process of inventing different types of survival equipment. Right now I'm working on a longbow that's collapsible, including the arrows. And so it'll all come together in a very compact unit, and it'll be like a survival type of longbow. And so trying to get on lots of stuff I'm trying to get together. Keep looking for me. Thanks so much for coming out and seeing us. And we'll talk to you also. Type of longbow. And so trying to get on lots of stuff I'm trying to get together. Keep looking for me. Thanks so much for coming out and seeing us. And we'll talk to you also.